Today we're trapped under ice. We're doing Metallica's Ride the Lightning, released in 1984. Cheers boys.
Cheers.
So, I mean, we've all heard of Metallica. One of us had to pull the trigger on this. And
it was bound to happen.
I would say that I'm a pretty big Metallica fan.
I'm a huge Metallica fan.
I thought I'd bring it to the table. And see what you guys
let me ask you this. At any point, was Metallica your favorite band? Like if someone asked you what's your favorite?
Wow. Actually, no.
Really?
No.
Damn straight.
Okay. For me, yes.
That's kind of crazy for you to ask me that question and me love Metallica as much as I love Metallica.
But they've never been your favorite band.
I just, like, my love for you just went up a notch.
Casey hates Metallica.
I fucking hate Metallica.
Dude, I really love Metallica. I honestly do. I think, James, we could have an episode just on Metallica, honestly.
Metallica was my favorite band for a long time.
I like that you say was.
Not anymore.
Because you realized how bad they were.
Well, the newer Metallica stuff's not as good as like Cattle Decapitation.
How bad the old stuff was too.
Well, I feel like Metallica is also one of those bands that like, it's like one of the first like metal kind of things that like at least people, you know.
Oh, for me, this is like
our age group and stuff like that.
The first metal band I got into. Yeah, clearly.
Yeah, I can see that.
And I think I first heard, like a lot of people, Enter Sandman and the Black Album. But when I started buying tapes, because I actually bought Metallica tapes back in the early 90s, I went backwards, right? Because I had the Black Album, and then I just got everything before that. And then that's when my world was changed. I was like, holy fuck, this is so good. I'd never heard, like, my brother played all this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? But I never like sat down and like listened to it.
So were you like Black Album and Justice for All, Master of Puppets?
I didn't get it in order because there was like no convenient way back then to like,
it's like whatever you got kind of.
Yeah, I just pick it based on, I'm like, oh, this one has a bloody hammer on it. I'm like, this is fucking brutal. I probably bought a lot of these CDs while hanging out with you, Casey.
Oh, for sure.
We'd go buy CDs. That's what you do like on Saturday. Like, hey, I got some money. You want to go buy some CDs? Mm-hmm. And we would. And I would pick up Metallica CDs.
Yep, and torment me all weekend.
And I've been a huge Metallica fan for a long time. Casey does not like Metallica.
I don't like Metallica.
You've heard this. I have played this for you.
I've totally heard this once or twice. Or 10,000 times.
That's fine.
All right, so this is Metallica's second album. They came out strong with Kill 'Em All. They had like other like demo stuff before that. And then they came out with this Ride the Lightning a year later. The first track is, it's thrash metal. Mm-hmm. The first track just fucking comes out guns a-blazing, in my opinion.
Well, yeah, I would agree for sure.
There's the... I don't like doing track-by-track analysis, but I think it's important to recognize that this first one just hits hard.
Well, also the first track, the runtime is the Mark of Kai.
The Mark of Kai?
Yeah, 444.
Oh. Some deep occult stuff that you're into.
No, when we used to play home run derby at Walter's house, Kai used to hit 444-foot home runs every single time.
Oh my God. Well, I mean, if you're going to name one track off this record, you're going to name every track off this record.
Do you think all of them's good?
I think every one of these is a banger. I also love that, like, the maturity that this band went through just from Kill 'Em All to Ride the Lightning is just insane. It's such a leap.
You think so?
Yeah, for sure. And then I think also after this, I think Master of Puppets, it was an even further step. But I think definitely this is like where Metallica started really kind of like experimenting and like kind of doing some different stuff, even with James Hetfield and his vocals.
I agree. I think this is from a writing perspective, they got like more progressive on this.
better songwriters and stuff.
Well,
but it doesn't get like, for me, it doesn't get mature until Master of Puppets. This seems a little like I'll be honest, this was surprisingly tough for me.
This album was a band in crisis writing an album. Dave Mustaine had left. This is the first album where
Kirk is writing music on.
No, their bass player.
Cliff Burton.
Cliff Burton stepped in and took kind of the lead on writing and teaching these guys.
He was a big part of,
which was a huge part of this album. And so the first album was James and Dave, hashing out a lot of stuff. I don't know that Dave was necessarily on the first album, but I know he had a lot of he
didn't play on it. Kirk played on it, but he wrote a lot of the stuff on there.
Writing. And then this came out, and I think Dave's got 2 writing credits on this. But this is where Cliff Burton kind of stepped in and kind of took the forefront lead on writing and kind of taught, not necessarily taught, but kind of pushed these new ideas. He was known for wearing an REM shirt and things like that. His musical interest was out there, not just in the thrash metal scene.
I think he also pushed these musicians, these group of friends, to get better.
And that's what I'm saying.
It pushed James to get better at guitar.
I think he was older than them too.
Yeah, and he had that knowledge on musical theory and things like that to really kind of push this band to kind of to step outside of what their comfort zone was. Because I think the first album was a lot of them just, hair in their face, play as fast as you can. We're on stage, but we don't want to be seen.
Very punk
kind of thing.
It's punk.
And this kind of forced them out of their comfort zone and really pushed them to try new stuff.
Cliff was a beautiful player.
Oh, for sure.
The shit he wrote is just like some of the best bass playing I've ever heard. I think he was the best metal bass player of all time. I think he absolutely shines on Master of Puppets, and his presence is totally heard on this. Like, For Whom the Bell Tolls.
Yeah.
If you've watched the live video of him playing this and he improvises licks on top of it, oh my god, he was phenomenal, dude.
Dude, I'm not saying. Listen, even Fade to Black, some of the song structures and how all of a sudden you have this pause and it comes in with these different type of riffs and stuff, real slow driven, definitely different from Metallica. Very vulnerable. The vocals, and I love how James Hetfield's vocals aren't even perfect. You know what I mean?
Horrible.
But that's what I love about it. You know what I mean? That's what I love about it, and I love also this is Metallica getting a little bit more philosophical and stuff, and not being so we just bang our head and play fast. But it was very mature. I think it's.
But wasn't Fade to Black written because they figured their career was over because all their equipment got stolen or some shit like that?
I think I heard something like that, which is kind of lame.
I don't know that.
So I said this was tough for me, and the reason I said that was because I've heard this a million times.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first listened to it, it's kind of annoying because I've already heard it a whole shitload of times. So I listened to it at first and I was like, I know it's good. It's Metallica Ride the Lightning. Of course it's good. It's Metallica Ride the Lightning.
It finally happened.
But then I started listening to it more, and it is clearly very good. But I feel like this is kind of a sophomore slump for Metallica.
Mm-hmm.
I think Kill 'Em All is... I went back and listened to all of them. Kill 'Em All is amazing.
Oh, yeah.
I think this, of the first 4 Metallica albums, I think this is my least favorite, honestly.
Oh.
And Escape and Trapped Under Ice, Fade to Black, I don't like that much anymore. I love Metallica.
Yeah.
But those songs kind of bug me now, and Creeping Death is really irritating.
So this is my Dark Side of the Moon.
Really?
How you're explaining, how I was explaining, I've heard Dark Side of the Moon. I've listened to it plenty of times. It's I don't need to hear it anymore, and that's kind of what you're saying about this right here,
Yeah.
And you're stumped. You're oh, you give it a 4.2? What the fuck? But this to me is something that I could listen to this nonstop. I'll put this on when I go home.
Interesting.
See, I have to go for kind of where Matt was at. Like out of the first 4 Metallicas, this is tied for my least favorite with the other 3.
Psych.
I feel like it was sloppy. It was. I honestly, my issue with Metallica is like I always felt like they're the working man's metal. There's nothing super spectacular in there. They have some cool flash guitar solos, but they were always held back to me by Lars's drumming. They had the potential to be decent as far as like riffing and things like that go, but his drumming always screwed this band over.
Okay, so is that a deal? Why don't you like Metallica?
I don't like the sloppiness of the first couple albums. I don't like Lars's drum tone on any of their albums, like that hollow snare that he does. And I mean his fills, I have to give him like the fills that he comes up with, because he doesn't have like this standard teaching or whatever, so he just kind of throws these crazy weird fills in there that wouldn't necessarily work for anybody else, but it works for
nobody
Metallica.
Else can play for Metallica.
I don't like it.
If Lars says, hey, I can't play anymore, I think Metallica should just be like, I'm done.
Yeah.
That's kind of true.
No, I'm dead serious. Like
they get a good drummer, and it's like Metallica's good again.
But I also feel like I also feel like when I first heard Metallica or first really got into Metallica, they were just so commercialized at the time. Like we would have those stupid power groups come to the school for the assemblies and tear up phone books, and they'd be playing Metallica in the background and shit like that. And it's like, dude, I don't need to hear this everywhere I go. And they just, to me, weren't flash. Like I was into hair metal at the time, and they weren't.
This was anti-hair metal.
No, and that's the thing.
You're like, man, these guys look like me. I don't want to fucking listen to them.
They weren't flashy. There was no crazy guitar playing. I mean, their solos were decent, but there was nothing like over the top that really caught my attention on them.
What about the ballads and stuff like Fade to Black? Do you not like that stuff?
I remember when we were kids, and we played this a lot, and Fade to Black, I think, was my favorite song on this album. But I think it wasn't necessarily because I liked the song. I liked the fact that it was such a change up from everything else on the album. And Unforgiven. But at the same time, I feel like the chord progressions on both of those are so similar that I confuse the two of them all the time. When I was listening to this and Fade to Black came on, it went through the whole intro thing, and then he started singing. I was like, he's singing the wrong song. This is Unforgiven. But yeah, so I never thought that like Metallica was like this great band, and maybe it was my anti-establishment teenage mind at the time. Like I don't want to believe anything that anybody else thinks is cool. I was always more of a Megadeth fan. I mean, what's the saying? A Megadeth fan or a Metallica fan could always be a Megadeth fan, but a Megadeth fan can never be a Metallica fan.
Right. So we made you listen to Ride the Lightning with the critical ear this time.
You did.
Nathan did. Good choice, Nathan.
Yeah, good job.
I was wondering we're gonna crack the Metallica.
I don't necessarily know that like my perception of the album got better. I think if anything, it got worse having to critique it.
Oh my God.
But it's just me.
So what would you give it for a rating?
So I gave Metallica Ride Thy Lightning a 3.1 out of 5.
It's completely underrated.
I think I overrated this album.
Okay, so 3.1, that means you think it's pretty good. You think it's good?
I don't think it's great. I think it's a decent album. I would have to say this is probably.
To crack.
I would have to say, even from like remembering back in the day when you used to force this upon me and like tie me down on your bed naked and make me listen to Metallica. This was probably my most.
And sing 2x4. Hey, my bitch.
I'm not gonna use favorite Metallica in the same sentence, but this was my most liked Metallica album.
Okay.
And so that kind of helped with it. But
you've heard the first 4. Is this your favorite of the first 4?
I think so. I think this is my most liked of the first 4. So what about you, Matthew?
One of the tough things about doing this show is going back and revisiting nostalgic albums.
Mm-hmm.
We've done bunches of them. Vulgar Display of Power, Dark Side of the Moon, you know, some of these older albums that when you bring them up, you're just like, oh, clearly it's a 5.
Mm-hmm.
Like Green Day Dookie, clearly it's a 5.
Mm-hmm.
But then you have to go through and like listen to it for real again, and it sucks that Ride the Lightning's not a 5, because if you would have asked me like throughout any point in my life, it's like clearly it's a 5.
Mm-hmm.
But when you get down and really look at it, for me it's a 4.6 out of 5. Which pains me to say because I love Metallica, but granted, 4.6 is a good.
Yeah, it's a good.
Yeah, I figured every Metallica album we had to review, you were going to give a 5.
Right, and that's my initial thought, but it's not. It can't be true. Is there a 5 in a Metallica album? Very likely.
Mm-hmm.
This is my least favorite of the 4. You know what I mean? Between Kill 'Em All, Ride the Lightning, Master of Puppets, and Justice for All. This is my number 4 of those first 4 albums. But clearly it's fucking good. You know what I mean? It's classic thrash metal masterpiece in a lot of ways. Call of Cthulhu is a masterpiece.
Yeah.
There's a couple of like just amazingly good songs on here for sure. Just some of it bugs me, and you know, it's a 4.6. Nathan, your pick?
Yeah, you guys are wrong. This is a 5.0, dude. This is a perfect 5. This is my favorite out of the first 4. But don't be surprised if I ever throw out another 5 on a Metallica record. Metallica is... They're not my favorite band, but they are by far one of my favorite bands of all time.
Mm-hmm.
I can't be like Metallica is my favorite band, but definitely like
up there for you.
If I have a few beers, dude, I'm playing Saint Anger.
Like, you defend Saint Anger, which I'm
a biased, reviewer right now. But 5.0, man, the musicianship, I love how they like added in like the acoustic parts and stuff, and like for me that was different when I first listened to this, and like you said, it's nostalgic, right? But this nostalgia stayed with me pretty hard, so
that's fucking awesome, dude. I love that.
We are Blenderstyle. That was Metallica. Ride the Lightning. Be sure to like, comment, subscribe. Give middle finger emojis or whatever you guys do. Thank you.
Blend unto others as they've blend to you.